The other thing about film noir and Double Indemnity in particular that you're supposed to kind of that makes it an enjoyable experience is the dialogue. The dialogue is, I hope that you noticed, strange. Characters often talk sort of around one another. They change the subject. It's oblique is the word that I would use. But like usually when you talk to somebody, you say something and then they say something back that sort of matches or makes sense. In these movies, one character will say something and the other character will say something that's like sort of related, and you have to figure out how it connects. It's like a detour around the corner of the point that's being made. Um, um, so, for example, characters are playing games with words constantly, and they're being kind of silly and strange about it. So for example, because they don't want to say out loud what they're doing, um, like because they like so he Neff flirts with Phyllis, but they don't want to say out loud that they're flirting because that would be cheating on your husband, basically. So they kind of talk around it. So she warns him, but she doesn't say, normally, if a person was flirting with you and you were married and you sort of didn't want them flirting with you, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you would, if you wanted them to stop, you would say, stop flirting with them. But in this movie, she says, you know, there's a speed limit in this state. Because he's going too fast. He's like treating her like she's a fast woman, like someone who's going to sleep with him, even though she's married to somebody else. He's taking things too quickly. They're sort of being flirty, but he's going too far. And they have this whole lengthy conversation about like, oh, if you were a cop, would you pull me over? And and they have this whole, it's a lengthy dialogue, metaphorical, about speeding and speeding tickets and the police. And yet, because they don't want to say out loud that they're flirting with each other, because they are. But if they said it out loud, then they would sort of know that if you make it public, I'm sure you guys have had a crush on somebody, but you hesitate to say that you have a crush because that could be the end of it. If you're like, I like you, and they go, no, it's over. But if you do little flirty things with them, then you see if they flirt back and you kind of check them out. That's what's happening in this movie with a lot of the characters, is they're kind of testing each other. And the way that they test each other is through words. So it's just enjoyable to kind of watch the characters talk to each other. So, for example, she says, he says, "Oh, I'm going to come by to see your husband later," and Phyllis says to him, and he says, "You'll be here with your," and she says, "I'll be here," and he says, sort of, in that chair with that anklet, because he's been talking about her, sexy ankle chain or whatever. And he says, "Oh, you'll be here with that anklet, with that drink, and that chair," because he's flirty, because he liked seeing her this time, and he's saying, he's supposed to just be here to talk to her husband about insurance, but he wants to see her, and he likes her outfit, and he wants to see her in that same kind of sexy outfit. And so she says, "Oh, and my husband will be here at 8:30. Oh, and you'll be here too with that anklet and that drink and that chair," because he likes her pose. He's flirting with her. And she says, "I wonder if I know what you mean." Meaning she's not sure what she says. She knows what he's talking about, but she says, "I wonder if I know what you mean," because she's trying to be like, "I see you flirting with me, but I'm not going to notice. I wonder if I know what you mean." And he says, "I wonder if you wonder," which is cute. It's like a cute piece of dialogue. Because he's saying, she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about," and he's like, "I think you do know what I'm talking about. You do know that I'm flirting," but they don't come out and say it like that because it'd be too confrontational, and so they play with each other. "Oh, will you be here wearing that sexy anklet? I wonder if I know what you mean. I wonder if you wonder." And it's a lot of that. It's two things actually, and there's a key link between them, which is these kinds of conversations revolve around both love and murder. It links them. They're similar subjects. Both love and murder are things that they want to talk about, but they don't want to say clearly what they're talking about. Because again, if you say clearly what you're talking about, the other person might be, "Okay, I do not want to be in a romantic relationship with you, leave me alone." And so people flirt and they play games. In the same way, they do the same thing with the murder, where they don't talk directly about the murder. They kind of talk around it like, "Oh, it'd be a shame if he had an accident. Is that what you're worried about?" But of course, they don't mean accident. They mean, he says something like, "Oh, maybe a brick falls on it. Maybe that brick had a little help." It's different from being like, "You want to kill your husband." Because if you say that to somebody, they're going to be like, "How dare you accuse me of, I'm not a murderer." But he just they flirt about love, and they flirt or sex, and they flirt about murder. But they don't want to say it out loud. Students often want to know, why don't people just say what they mean? My students often admire direct speaking. Just say what you mean. Don't play games, they say. But it's fun to play games. Games are enjoyable. People love, I mean, there's an entire industry of sports games that people, basketball and football and baseball. People love games. Wordplay is a type of game. And these characters first of all, these characters don't say what they mean because they don't want to shut down what they're talking about. So they play, and they play with words. Their playing with words is one of the reasons to watch the movie. It is enjoyable to watch characters. They say one thing, and then you have to do a little bit of work to figure out what the hell they're talking about, and it's fun. It's enjoyable. Now, my students they don't enjoy word games of this kind. Because they like plain speaking and directness, and but these movies would be very fast if they were just like, do you want to fuck? Yes. That's porn. And there's a whole genre, and that's available on the internet to watch. But with a movie like this, you don't want to get it. The game is part of the fun. The chase is part of the fun. And what's really interesting is that you talk about murder in the exact same way that you talk about love, which is you don't say directly what you mean, you hint. And you whisper, and you say something that's sort of like the thing that you want to say, and you play around. And characters do this. It's not just limited to that. Characters throughout the movie do it because it's just fun. So, for example, the boss says to Keys, what was that guy's name who was on the train? And Keys says, it was Jackson. Probably still is. So, it's just silly, right? Because he's asking in the past tense about the guy who's still alive. So he says, oh, his name, what was that guy's name? And he says, oh, it was Jackson. Probably still is. And he knows it's for sure still Jackson. The guy didn't change his name. But they're just fooling around. It's fun. It's fun with words and language, and there's a lot of it. And as I go through and kind of think of some more stuff, I'll mention it. But like Walter, he says it's Neff. 2 F's, as in Philadelphia. That's funny. That's a funny joke. 2 F's is in Philadelphia. Because, of course, Philadelphia sounds like it has 2 F's in it. But, of course, if you know how the word Philadelphia is spelled, it's with a PH in the front and then another PH in the middle. Philadelphia, it's PH. So he says, oh, it's Neff. 2 F's is in Philadelphia. That's funny. Now, why doesn't he just say what he means? FF. Well, okay, you can, but it's funnier the way he says it. It's just entertaining. You have to it's wordplay. The word Philadelphia only sounds like it has 2 F's in it, but it doesn't really. It's not what it appears to be. Guess what else in this movie isn't what it appears to be? Right? This whole movie is about things not being what they appear to be. So it's a lot of sort of goofy, entertaining, kind of fun dialogue. Don't you want to turn your husband in for cash or whatever? So it's cute, and that's a big part of it. And so, yes, there's a lot of things going on in the movie, and there's a lot of cool camera shots with sort of beautiful lighting. Phyllis's outfits, Barbara Stanwyck's outfits, are amazing. She's got a lot of really great, cool outfits. Her hair is fucking perfectly put together, and it's lit gorgeously. So part of the pleasure of these movies is and this is the tricky part, is you have to just kind of enjoy the lighting, enjoy the shadows, enjoy the tricky way that people talk. 2 F's is in Philadelphia. You have to kind of enjoy all of that. If you can find that fun, then you're halfway there. A lot of people are like, I don't get these old movies. They're slow. One of the reasons why they seem slow is because a lot of modern day movies feel like if it's not constant action, if it's just not constant murders and chase scenes, you're going to get bored. I agree. Murders and chase scenes are pretty fun to watch in the movies, and I will not get bored. If you show me a lot of murders and chase scenes, I'll probably be interested. And studies will tell you, right? If the person being chased is a woman, even more exciting. If it's a pregnant woman, even more exciting. Fine. But there are other things to enjoy about movie. This was the whole point of 2001. There are other things to enjoy. Now, 2001, the only thing to enjoy is the music and the way the shots are composed. For a long time, that's all you can enjoy. But in this movie, too, the lighting and the costumes and the tricky dialogue, the playful dialogue, it's slow in the sense that there's not a whole bunch of murders and a whole bunch of chase scenes. But it's exciting in the sense that it's really well put. It's beautifully shot and beautifully lit, and the costumes are great, and the dialogue's fun. So it's a different kind of fun. 2001 is a different kind of fun, but it is definitely some kind of fun, and I really like it. See you guys in the next video.